our souls will be reunited with our bodies when he comes again.
With a glorified body.
Right, that's what I was just getting ready to say.
Not this cavity that you see right now.
It's a resurrected body, whatever that is. And we read about that in the stories toward the end of the Gospels after Jesus' resurrection. He's got a glorified or a resurrected body. It's interesting because on the one hand, he appeared to the apostles they were in a locked room, and apparently doors and walls were no obstacle. At the same time, he still bore his wounds. So there's seems to be some kind of a continuation with this body, but yet it's different. So what is a glorified body? I don't know exactly. And this also goes back to last week. Father Freddie was talking about Mary. And if you recall, he talked about the assumption, her assumption, where at her death, she was assumed body and soul into heaven. So her body didn't get buried in the ground and decay and all that. So you could say really in a way that she got, by a special grace granted by God, given to her, she got ahead of time, but we're all going to get it. Does that follow that? Okay. So she got it ahead of time. Don't know that I have anything else to say about the resurrection body.
So, do you think the man crucified beside Jesus is there in body, or is his soul just there? So when Jesus says this day you'll be in paradise with me, is that just his soul, or do you think his body's there?
I would presume, because I think Mary's the only one who was given that singular grace. Everybody else got to wait till Jesus comes again. So I would presume that.
I think he's in heaven. I know his soul's in heaven.
Yeah, his soul, but not his
I
body.
hadn't thought about the whole body thing on that.
He's the only one that the Lord really ever guaranteed eternal life to. Was him.
So turning away from our sin is what we call repentance. That's what we call repentance. Repentance is, and we'll talk more about this when we get to especially sacrament of reconciliation. You know, it's more than just saying I'm sorry. I'm sure we've probably all known somebody who just keeps doing something over and over and over and over and over. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You know, but it just never seems to change. You know, after a while you think, well, you know, are you sorry? You know, you naturally begin to wonder. So it's more than saying I'm sorry. It is having sorrow. You know, realizing, oh my goodness, that was wrong. But out of our wholesome sorrow, not wallowing in unhealthy guilt, but out of wholesome sorrow, then comes a desire to begin to try to overcome whatever it is. Now, we might fail again, probably will, but we keep trying, little by little. That's how we get there. That's repentance, turning from the sin toward God. That's what it's about. Any other? Oh, it did mention the rapture in here, didn't it? In a little brown box. I forgot about that. That is not a belief that Catholics share. describe as the rapture. Our belief is basically what I've already said, which is a little different from what many non-Catholic faiths describe as rapture. And I guess it's worth mentioning too, as it occurs to me, this is not in your leaflet, but there are some who have a belief, sometimes it's put as once saved, always saved. We don't, that's not the Catholic view either. Most certainly, salvation is offered to all because of the death and resurrection of Jesus. But that's where the free will enters the picture. We have to accept the gift of salvation. And it's possible for a person to have a profound religious experience. But at some point, because of exercising human free will, they may go the other direction and start living a life quite apart from the ways of Christ. That is most definitely possible, isn't it? And so, you know, we don't share that belief. It ain't just automatic done deal. Because we retain our free will the entirety of our lives. Any questions? Objections? And you know, if you think, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard, I don't know about that. Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's part of why we're here. You know, I certainly have no expectation that you just automatically swallow everything you hear. That wouldn't be terribly realistic. You know, some of this stuff you might very well struggle with it. Okay. That's all right. Struggle. You know, if you have questions, hopefully you feel comfortable enough to ask. Or clarification. You might need something not clear. I can try anyway.
I have friends that are non-Catholic, and I've argued with one till I'm blue in the face. She's like, we do not believe in purgatory. We go to heaven without purgatory. I think it's the silliest thing ever. And I try to argue my point with her. And how do you convince a non-Catholic that that's what we believe in and that it's so important? You see what I'm saying? Because they're like, we are the only religion that believes in purgatory. I don't understand it. You know, we go to heaven automatically without it. Do you see what I'm saying? I believe in it with all my heart.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you see where I'm getting at?
I would say you don't have to convince her.
That it's just, it is what it is, and
you have your belief, believe your belief. She believes her belief, but
so I gave up a long time ago.
Yeah, to get into a hotly contested debate about it is pretty fruitless, in my opinion. You know.
She's like, I just don't understand how all these other religions, and then I go back to the point that the Roman Catholic Church is the oldest church, and they started, you know, and then we end up fighting, and it's like, you know, it's not worth it.
No,
So.
it's really not. That's my point.
If that's,
No, like
if that's the only thing
arguing.
we can divide it on, we're in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have all the books of the Bible.
Yeah,
Catholics.
it's just hard for non-Catholics to understand the whole.
Well, I mean, quite honestly, I'm not sure all Catholics buy it.
Really?
Really?
When I was born, you know, so that's just the way I've always
There are
been.
plenty of cradle Catholics who certainly do not believe everything
I've had a Catholic
we
tell me,
profess. Hmm?
I had a Catholic tell me that purgatory, you go there and stay there until the end of time, and then
That's up to God. Now, we don't know